Hi everyone, it's me, Kelly. Welcome to KVTV. I want to thank you guys for taking a minute to join me today as we talk about one of my favorite things in the world, and that's motivation. I think motivation plays an important part in our lives in so many capacities, whether it's relationships, careers, our health, as well as our own personal well-being. I think motivation has played a big role for me in my life in terms of my career path, but it also has forced me to step back and reflect internally on what is driving me into making my next steps on a day-to-day basis, as well as long-term career goals, exercise goals, relationship goals. And so for you, I guess taking this time to think back on like what motivates you, what drives you, what is going to take you to the next level, whether it's in your workouts, your career, your relationships with yourself and with the ones around you that you care about. I think that's an important factor to consider when we are looking at our lives and figuring out what we're succeeding in and what maybe we could put more work into. I think that when we take time to stop and reflect on figuring out what motivates us, what drives us, it can help us have a clearer understanding of what we need to be doing next into getting that next step. And that leads me into the next big factor I wanted to talk about in achieving success is goals. I think goals are a huge stepping stone to helping us become our best selves. And I think you can think about this in terms of day-to-day living, right? So you wake up in the morning, you roll out of bed, maybe you hit your alarm to snooze, maybe you don't, maybe you go to work, maybe you go to the gym, you might grab breakfast out the door, you might skip breakfast, and so on and so forth. And I think that, that's okay if that's how we choose to live our lives. However, if we have a more clear and defined goal, it can help us make choices to help us reach our potential. So whether that's health, so that might be getting up and having a planned breakfast, or that might be being more productive at the office. So maybe that's building in a workout before we go to the office so that we have a clear mind and clear focus. Or maybe that's our health, right? So that's building in time to exercise. But I think if we can build in certain goals throughout our daily lives, that is going to help us achieve long-term success and whatever it is and however you define success in your own life. Which leads me to my third point, and that's rituals. And I've heard this a lot from my mentors. I've read this a lot in books as the power of rituals. And rituals kind of help us set up automated steps to success. So like we talked about, that morning workout, that cup of coffee, those things that we do day in and day out that automate things, right? So if we know that we're going to have our egg whites and oatmeal every day for breakfast, it takes out the guesswork, it takes out the temptation to skip breakfast or to grab a donut instead. And the same thing can be said in many other aspects of our life, right? So whether it's we only check email at certain hours of the day, it prevents us from getting distracted in other areas. Whether it's we know that we're going to eat dinner with our family 5 nights a week, and that's just our practice. It helps us cultivate that family time or spending time with the ones we care about. And so I think moving forward on our reflections on how we're trying to become our best selves, it's important to kind of step back and figure out, what's going to motivate us towards success? What are some goals that we can set to achieve success? And lastly, what are some rituals that we can instill in our day-to-day lives to help us reach those points? And so I leave you with this, maybe taking some time this week to think about what are some new rituals that we can implement in our lives to help us achieve success, whether it's taking time to meditate in the morning, to get in a workout right after work, to having lunch or dinner with our spouse or loved ones, to really embrace where we're at and where we're trying to be. I thank you all so much for your love and support, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Be sure to visit me on Facebook at Kelly Vargo Fitness, as well as on Twitter at Kelly Vargo. Talk to you soon. Bye.